Welcome to PCN Life, lifestyle stories from the South Shore. We're excited to bring you a new episode. Tonight, we have local author Darren Colucci back to talk about inspiring young people.
Local Eats is back, this time from a new restaurant in the Mill area of Duxbury.
That's right, Julie. First up is our new series launching tonight called Day in a Career, where we take you inside different companies to see what goes into the job at a local company. First up, we take a look at Mayflower Brewery in Plymouth.
So this is almost like a day in the life, but it's a day in a job in a company that we have locally in our community.
Lots of layers to it, Julie. So basically, we were looking around at, we were spitballing ideas. Once we finished up the Spend the Day series, we thought, why don't we do something about did you know it was made in this town? So we took that idea and kind of expanded on what goes into making that product that's made in this town that you might not have even known was made in this town.
And the different people that make it. So Mayflower Brewery is the first place you stopped.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Its logo is unmistakable. You've probably seen it poured at your favorite tavern or even had one poured for yourself and your friends. And with a name like Mayflower, you might even suspect that it was made by one of the big brewing companies out in the Midwest just capitalizing off of name recognition. Well, you're right about the name recognition, but as for where it's made, everything from the brewing to labeling and packaging takes place right here in Plymouth, Massachusetts. The Mayflower Brewing Company did their first official brew in January of 2008. Since that time, they've become a staple with restaurants, pubs, and retailers. Over the years, they've created over 20 different types of brews. Some of them were one-offs, while others became mainstays. We thought it'd be a good idea to head down to the brewery and talk to the guys who actually make the beer that continues to grow in popularity. If we were planning on getting a close inside look, we wouldn't be going through the front door. We'd have to go in through this top-secret side door. And here's where the magic happens. For someone just coming in off the street, all of this machinery may appear a little intimidating at first glance. But if you work here, you see things much differently.
I see fun, I see passion. I worked the cubicle job, wasn't for me. This is a hard job. It's wet and it's hot and it's cold throughout the year, but we come in here and we like going to work. And you can't put a price on that.
Even during their slowest production months of January through early March, this place is still cranking out 4 to 5 brews per week, with each single brew consisting of 20 barrels. Once springtime rolls around, though, the team ramps up production to up to 10 brews a week, which means Jay and head brewer Ryan Gavush are often doing double brews Monday through Friday.
I'll get in the morning, start the first brew, and then we'll kind of tag team throughout the day. If he needs to go do something, he'll be free up to go do that. If I need to go do something, I'll be free up to go do that. Having 2 people makes a big difference.
We should also clarify what constitutes a barrel for those like myself who weren't so sure.
People that aren't in the industry hear barrel and they think of a keg. So when you were in college or if you're working in a bar, those big kegs you're used to seeing, that's a half barrel. So to give you some perspective, 2 of those is a barrel, and a barrel is roughly, I believe, 31 gallons.
So if 20 barrels would make 40 of these, then 10 single brews can yield up to 400 of them. Now, if they're doing double brews, well, you get the picture. Mayflower Brewing Company produces roughly 7,500 barrels in a year. Of course, the beer doesn't just brew itself. Each brew takes about 6 hours, and it all has to start somewhere.
The first process in brewing is mashing in. So that would be taking our barley and our specialty malts, mixing them with hot water. And what that does is it activates the enzymes that are naturally in the grains, and that will convert the starch that's in the grain to sugars that the yeast, which we add later in the process, will convert those sugars to alcohol and carbon dioxide.
And that was about all I could really understand. Everything else he said after that might as well have been in a foreign language, and all I could do was just nod along politely. In simple terms, think of this kettle here as the teacup with the bag still in it, and this one as the perfectly steeped cup of tea that's been drained off. For the record, it's way more complicated than that, but once the first kettle has been emptied, they're left with the byproduct.
After we utilize the grain, in our terms it's called spent grain, we've taken what we need to create our beer, but we have this solid left over. Over here there's a grain out port. We'll open that, and within the mash tun, there's some rakes that we can turn on to plow it all out into this container that then goes into our dump truck. We bring it to a couple local farmers. One uses it to compost for growing organic veggies. The other feeds it to dairy cattle.
While the brewers face their share of challenges, for the most part, their day-to-day operations are pretty smooth sailing.
The brew house is pretty simple. Where if you get into the canning line, there's tons of moving parts. Those guys run into more bad days than us.
But before we get to the canning line, we should meet the person partly responsible for keeping things running on schedule here in the brew house. He's known as the cellarman.
Cellarman basically helps out the brewers, so I filter all the beer, clean all the tanks, general cleanliness of the brewery. I make all the casks here, and pretty much just help out the brewers whenever they need it.
On this day, Alex Cordero was using perlite to filter a batch of porter. In this process, the machine is filled with water to remove the excess air so that it won't create oxidation with the beer. Once the water is in place, it's time to pour the perlite in and let it work its magic.
And that settles over the plates of the bell, and the beer basically goes on top of the perlite. We use fine, medium, and coarse. So the best way to describe it is pretty much the powder creates like tortuous pathways for beer, and that catches all the stuff that's in the beer, so when it comes out of the machine, you get a nice clean pour.
Since returning home from the Air Force, Cordero has quickly risen through the ranks here at Mayflower, starting as a driver, then packaging manager, before eventually taking over as cellarman. As for continuing his ascent, he's really in no rush right now.
Some people ask if I want to be a brewer. I don't really want to brew beer right now because I want to master the position I'm at right now. I don't want to, go up too quick. I want to make sure I know my job first. But I'm going to start keeping bees this year, and so one of my goals for this year is to use some honey that I harvest from my own hives and put it in a beer here. I think that would be pretty neat.
If deliberate precision is the name of the game here in the brew house, then rapid succession is the directive for the canning room. If you're quick on your feet, like an action-packed atmosphere, and can handle a little extra noise, this is the job for you. Nothing makes it to the marketplace until it's passed through here.
All the packaging from cans to kegs and everything in between into the 6-packs, but we'll pretty much start off and do cleaning cycles on all the machines. We'll do that for probably the first hour of the day, get everything situated, because you want to line up, get all your boxes, get all your cans, everything ready, your kegs cleaned, all that stuff. And then as long as there's beer ready, we'll start packaging. They tell us when they're ready, and then we'll bring the beer over into the machine and get it going.
The canning room has undergone some major upgrades since our first visit here in 2014.
We invested in incredible machinery from this company CFT. So the canning line, it's a couple different pieces, but the first part's the depalletizer. So you put the cans in there, it lifts them up, this little arm sweeps them onto the conveyor, and then those go down into a rinser, which flips them upside down, cleans them all out, flips them back over, feeds them into the machine, and then there's sensors all along the way to tell you if cans are stopped or getting caught somewhere. Then they go into the machine, they go into the filler, and they get purged with CO2 real quick, filled with beer, a little shot of CO2 at the end, and then they go right into the seamer, which puts the cap on the can. So we do 12 cans at a time, filling, and two seamed cans at a time. And we can do 120 cans a minute when we're running at full capacity. Then they come through the seamer, out the other side, get sprayed off with water, blown off with air, X-rayed with the X-ray machine to make sure that they're not short, come out, get the date sprayed on them, and then they're right into the cartoner. It packs them into 6-packs, glues them shut, and spits them out.
And once the guys have things wrapped up, it's time to put it away in cold storage for the delivery trucks. But if you can't wait for the next delivery, you should come and visit the newly renovated tasting room. It's open from noon to 8 Wednesday through Saturday and noon to 6 on Sundays.
Yeah, tasting rooms are a new innovation for the craft beer market. They were not allowed until just 2 or 3 years ago. And since then, they've helped spawn this very locally focused industry where folks are able to come to the brewery, try the beer. They may find it out in the marketplace, they may not. Folks are able to come to the brewery and get the freshest beer possible right out of the tanks. And it gives them a direct sense of ownership with the brewery. They get to meet the brewers, they get to meet the staff, they get to see where the beer is produced, and I think that's a lot of fun for folks.
When Mayflower Brewing first arrived on the scene in 2008, breweries in Massachusetts numbered in the 30s. As of 2017, that number has grown to 200. So staying on top of current trends is always a factor to remain competitive.
Yeah, the industry continues to be thriving in terms of consumer interest, but there's also more and more brands every day. So the challenge for us isn't so much to be a viable business, but it's challenging to grow. So we continue to innovate, come out with new products, and listen to the consumer and make sure that we're brewing things that they're interested in trying. And we're having a good time doing that.
And if you really like Mayflower beer, the good news is it's not just limited to Massachusetts. So the next time you're traveling across New England, you'll find that the company distributes their product to all 6 New England states. But don't forget, it's made right here in Plymouth. For PCN Life, I'm Brian Sullivan.
We're pleased to welcome back to our set our local author, Darren Colucci, who wrote a book, Everything I Never Learned in School. We had you on a few months ago to talk about how you ended up writing this book. You're not only an author, you're an attorney, you're an entrepreneur, you're a football coach, you're a public speaker. You've done a lot of things. And I remember reading this book and being so impressed with it and so inspired by it. And last time we talked a lot about your background and how you came to envision writing this book and why you wrote it. And you might want to give just a brief synopsis on the objective of your book.
Sure. First of all, it's nice to see you again.
You too?
And secondly, I was always interested in success, and I always said to myself, if I could crack the code, if I could figure it out, I was going to write a book that was devoid of all nonsense, all hyperbole, and just give somebody, this is what you need to do. This is how you do it to become successful. So that was kind of my why I wanted to write the book.
And last time we didn't get to break down all the chapters, which are really, really important. And each one gives not only great advice, but then examples, real world examples of how it works. So the first one is it all begins with your thoughts.
Yes, very much so. Most people doom themselves by what they say out loud and what they think. It's kind of a limiting belief. It's what they believe they're not capable of. So I thought Henry Ford said it best, and I put his quote in the book, where he said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And it's very difficult for people to understand that when they say out loud, oh, I can never do that, or I'll never have money, they're dooming themselves to that fate. So if you know that, say you can. Believe that you can do these things and start making it a part of you. So it does begin with a perceptual shift of how you live your life, what you say, and what you think. That you kind of get yourself used to not saying or thinking negative thoughts. But kind of replacing them with the I cans as opposed to the I can'ts.
So can't is not a word we're going to use anymore.
Success comes in cans, not can'ts, my friend.
That's right. Okay. Number 2, don't let fear get the best of you.
Yeah, that's probably
get in your way.
That might be the most important chapter in the whole book, because when we're talking about fear, we're not talking in this sense about zombies or snakes, public speaking. We're talking about that inner fear that makes people think, I can't do that. That I'd love to start my own business, and then they'll come up with a million excuses. It's not the right time, I don't have enough capital, I don't have enough know-how. That's fear. Fear is basically guiding them, and one of the lines I put in the book is, fear starts running and then ruining your life if you allow it to. Because it's just a bully, and it'll push you around as long as you allow it to push you around.
So, and you have an acronym for fear.
Yeah, it wasn't mine, that was someone else's, but I gave him credit. It's false events appearing real. And just in a quick synopsis, if someone, as my wife said to me, we should get a boat. And I had never gone boating in my whole life. And I'm saying out loud, okay, and I'm thinking, I'm going to crash, I'm going to sink, I'm going to hurt somebody, because I don't know anything about boats. So those are false events. You're creating that drama in your head because you're worried about it. And then I caught myself and I thought, this is silly. I know a lot of knuckleheads who have boats. I can do this. And then we got a boat, and it's the greatest thing we ever did. We love it. It's a lot of fun. But if I had let that fear grip me,
you would have done it.
I would have never experienced it.
Always ask for advice.
Yeah, very important. But you have to know who to ask advice from. So
how do you determine that?
You got to look for a successful person. You have to look for someone who's succeeding in the area that you want to succeed in. So I point out respectfully that parents can only teach what they know. And it's always well-intentioned. They want to give you whatever advice they can. But if your father or mother are not business people, if they've never owned a business, it's kind of hard to get good advice from them about how to start. So you got to find someone who started a business. And my theory is, because I've lived it, if you go up to someone and say, I would love to know how you did that, 99 out of 100 times they say, absolutely, you want to have a cup of coffee?
Oh, sure. People love to talk about their success. Of course they do.
They're honored that you ask. So yes, you need to ask advice, because it'll help you get ahead, and it will also help you avoid a lot of pitfalls that those people have lived through and they already made the mistake. And they'll point it out to you.
Plus, you can develop relationships with people by having them be your mentor. I mean,
definitely.
And they love it, and you love it. It's a win-win for everybody.
And it always seems to happen that way. They want to help you. And then if you're nice about it and you really are a student of it, they're going to say to you, now call me whenever you want, whenever you have a question.
Exactly. Okay, take action.
It's like reading a biography about somebody. You can read a biography about a successful man or woman.
Yeah.
And if all you take away from it is, wow, that's great for them, you learn nothing.
Right.
You got to apply it. You got to learn what they did and then look at your own life and say, okay, that's the same situation I just read about. I
Right.
read what they did. I'm going to do the same thing.
Right.
And then now you're fighting the fear. You're going back a
Yeah.
chapter.
Yeah.
Because what stops me from doing it? All the things
Yeah.
you concoct
Well, I
in your
didn't
head
have
as
that
to
same
why it won't
background
work.
that they had. Right,
Exactly.
right.
I didn't have $1 million
Right,
to fall
right,
back on.
right.
That will stop you from getting all your dreams. You got to take that
Right,
step.
right. You have to be proactive. Okay. Invest in your goals.
This book is $11, and there are people that are going to have trouble parting with $11, particularly younger people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're being short-sighted. You should never skimp on helping yourself
right, whatever
move
it is.
forward. So if you look at, I can buy that game and it's going to give me some fun for a short amount of time, and I'm going to do Candy Crush like everybody else and go like this and wipe out fruit.
Right.
It's never going to get you where you want to go. It has a place. It's
Right.
It's fun.
Right.
But something like this, you look at and you say, for $11, I'm going to learn how to be successful. I'm going to get the formula on how to do it. Maybe that's a good investment. So yeah, you should never skimp on trying to help yourself move forward.
Right. And whatever field you are interested in, you should invest in learning from the best in that field.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Makes sense, doesn't
Yep,
it? Success leaves
absolutely.
clues. You want to tap into that
That's right. Attitude is everything.
in every aspect of life.
That's true.
Your attitude is going to dictate how far you go.
Right.
And I teach it to my son all the time. I say, if you're nice to someone, they're going to want to help you because you're a nice person.
Right.
If you go up to somebody and you roll down your window and you say, where's Main Street? Why would they answer you? When you're yelling at them, you're asking them in essence for a favor. So if you roll down your window and you say, excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
Anybody will help you. They'll show you where you want to go.
Right.
So attitude will dictate how the other person is going to react.
Right.
And it also helps you because a lot of the book is about that positive outlook. And I'm not talking about sunny disposition, always positive about everything. I'm talking about believing in yourself and having that magnetic personality that people are attracted to you.
Right.
Because you're in a good mood, because you feel positive about things.
Right.
Most people aren't attracted to negative people.
And I find that kids these days, and I don't mean to stroke them with a broad brush, they don't seem to have the same, not attitude, but countenance that we did as kids, where we'll look somebody in the eye all the time. We were taught to do that. We'll defer to an elderly person if they're walking in front of us. It's almost like our generation has grown up so much with their singular devices and looking down that they don't look up.
Yeah, that's our fault. That's parenting.
Yeah.
Because my parents told me to look at someone when you talk to them,
Mine-
speak in an audible
mine
voice.
too, right.
So if you allow your child to look at his phone, you say hi to Mrs. Johnson and say, hey, and if you allow that to happen,
Right.
what we tolerate, we encourage.
Right.
And I agree with you that that's becoming a lost art. Everyone's just looking at their phone or looking down. They're not interacting with people.
Right.
And that phone is not going to make you a success. Meeting people,
Right.
making connections, networking,
Right.
people liking you and just saying, boy, that's a hell of
Right.
a nice young man or woman. That will make a difference.
Right. Remove yourself from negativity.
It's like a cancer.
Yeah.
You got to cut it out. And it's hard because
And we all have it,
yeah.
though, right?
I heard not too long ago that on a radio show in Boston, they said there should be a negative Twitter and a positive Twitter. And if you join negative Twitter, you can never say a positive thing. Which would you join? And it was astonishing.
Right.
80% of people wanted to be on negative Twitter. Why would you ever want that? I mean, it's horrible
Yeah.
if you're one of these people that are going to go through life with a bumper sticker that says life sucks.
Yeah.
That's like the
then
worst
you
thing
die.
in the world. And then you die. Well, that's when you're done making money from that bumper sticker, you need another one, you add, then you die. So you got to check that. And when it's your
Right.
friends or your family, it's very hard.
Yeah.
But that it'll suck you in. It's a vortex. And
Yeah.
then next thing you know, you're thinking negatively and talking negatively. And that's something you got to be careful
Right.
of because that will not help you.
Right. Not in any aspect of your life, as you said. Good manners, as we were just talking about, are essential.
I felt very strongly about putting that in the book.
Yep.
So many things about manners, integrity, just being a very good person. You wouldn't believe how far you can go in business with that.
Right.
People want to help nice people.
Yeah.
People want to go out of their way for nice people.
Right.
And it's like my example with rolling down the window. No one wants to go out of their way for someone who barks at them.
Right.
But if you're just genuine and nice, it's like a lost art, being nice, people will bend over backwards to assist you.
Right. And just the way you thank people or get back to people. It's amazing how many times you'll send an email or call somebody and leave a message and you never hear. You never even got, oh, I got your email, I'll call you back some other time. I was always brought up that you just answer. You answer right away and you say, I can't do it right now, but I got it, I heard you, I'll get back to you.
But even the smallest common courtesy, particularly at the beginning of an interaction, will help you immeasurably.
Right.
So if you walk up to someone and say, I'm sorry, am I getting you at a bad time? All of a sudden their countenance changes. And they say,
absolutely.
no, I'm happy to help you.
Absolutely.
Because you're not the normal person that walks up and just starts barking.
You give them a way out, too.
You give them respect.
Yep,
and
you give them respect.
That's all they want.
Yep. Perseverance always wins.
Yeah, they asked Steve Jobs once, what's the biggest thing that separates successful entrepreneurs from unsuccessful?
Yeah.
And he said what every other entrepreneur said. Stick-to-itness, perseverance.
Right.
Because every success is really 10,000 failures that you overcame to reach the success.
Right.
So if you stopped anywhere along the line, you don't invent the light bulb, you don't invent the radio, you don't invent anything.
Right.
So people have to see perseverance as it's an essential part of success, because you're going to fail. Don't look at it as a failure. It's that stepping stone you need to get to success.
Okay, in our last minute, believe it will happen.
Yeah, well, so we're ending where we began.
Right.
You have to believe that you can see the end. You can see exactly what you want becoming your reality.
Right.
And I don't mean to be ethereal. I mean, really believe it, that this is what's going to happen for me. I am going to wind up on PCN with you having an interview, and it's going to happen no matter what. And somehow or another, somebody cancels and they call me, and then I got to come in here.
And there you are.
One way or another, it happens. That's true.
Right. So, and you're taking this book and you're speaking to students really in colleges and in high schools. And what is the one takeaway you want to give kids when you talk to them?
It's not what you think. Success is a formula. And the biggest takeaway of all, it's a great question, is please don't think that successful people are different than you. That's the single biggest mistake you can make. I don't care whether it's Oprah Winfrey or Barack Obama or whomever.
Steve Jobs or whoever.
It does not matter. They are no different than you. And every day and in every walk of life, ordinary people do extraordinary things. So you have to be able to see yourself as capable of doing those same things, because they are the same as you. They just understood this material and they lived it.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So much.
Very nice to
Darren
see you
Colucci,
again.
nice to have you. Everything I Never Learned in School is the book by local Duxbury author Darren Colucci. Thank you. We'll have you back.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Our Local Eats segment took a run to Duxbury to visit a new addition to the restaurant scene there. Take it away, Donna.
Welcome to Local Eats. Today we are here in historic Duxbury, Massachusetts at the Oysterman Raw Bar and Tavern. This is a fairly new addition to the food scene in Duxbury, but already this gem is a local favorite. So come on in and let's meet one of the owners, Dermot.
Hi Donna, welcome to the Oysterman.
Hey Dermot, thanks for having us. I've been looking forward to this.
Great to have you here today.
I have heard a lot about the Oysterman Bar and Tavern. Tell me a little bit about it. You guys are a historic spot in town.
We are. This used to be the old train station in town. We took some of the barn wood from a barn that was at the back of the building, and during construction we found a train track. So we reused that as the footrail at the bottom of the bar. You can see that there.
So this is truly a spot of Duxbury within your bar and tavern. And in addition to having incredible seafood and oysters, which we'll talk about in a minute, you are known for your bar. Tell me about your bar.
That's right, Donna. We have a great focus on local craft beers, and we have over 20 beers on draft here. If you'd like to try one, I can get you one now.
What would you recommend?
I recommend Boat for Sale. It's brewed locally in Plymouth by independent fermentation.
Excellent. And while you were grabbing a beer for me, I'm going to sample. I think I have fish tacos here, and I have a buffalo cauliflower.
That's our famous buffalo cauliflower. Everybody seems to really enjoy it. One of our top sellers, along with the fish tacos.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Dermot. This is fantastic. I love the little bit of a kick to it. And thank you for the beer, but we are at the Oysterman.
If you're at the Oysterman, you gotta hit the Raw Bar.
Let's do it. This is the Raw Bar. at the Oysterman. On weekends, it also serves as a Bloody Mary do-it-yourself bar. So tell me, Dermot, this entire restaurant is built around oysters and built around your love of oysters. Tell me about that.
That's right, Donna. What we did here with the raw bar is we put it center of the restaurant. One of the things about moving to Duxbury is you can't help but fall in love with the oysters here. And we're so lucky that we have these oysters being farmed here in town. Some of the best oysters in the country. But we just don't sell Duxbury oysters. We also have different varietals that we bring in. Today we have Cops Island. They're from Connecticut.
So tell you what, I know that we're going to be heading to the dining room in just a minute to sample some of the rest of your menu. You have so much to offer in addition to your oysters and seafood, but I think I want my own lesson for how to shuck an oyster. So we're going to hang out here at the Raw Bar for a minute and we'll meet you back in the dining room. That was so much fun. The oysters were incredible, and I now feel very accomplished.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So in addition to some great craft beers, a fantastic raw bar, you also have a pretty well-received menu. Tell me a little bit about what's on the menu.
And what we've done here at the menu is we feature some seafood, but we also have burgers and steaks, chicken. We want to have something for everyone. And we have a scratch kitchen, so we're cooking all our food fresh.
You're right at the ocean, so we know your seafood is coming in right from the ocean, but everything here looks so fresh and everything is made right in the restaurant. Now, you have a fairly extensive background in the restaurant industry. It's not an easy industry. What is it that brings you back every single day, and what is it that makes you want to be able to share your restaurant with others?
Well, I wanted to work where I lived, and that was the most important thing for me, and that's why when we moved to Duxbury, I wanted to have a restaurant in Duxbury so that I could share not just with the people of Duxbury, but my family too.
What do you want people to take away from their experience when they come to the Oysterman?
Well, one thing we set out with the Oysterman to do was to make it a place where both locals and visitors felt welcome and could enjoy Duxbury oysters.
So people can come in, they can sit down, they can have a great drink, they can have a fabulous meal and meet people from all over the world, literally.
Literally, that's exactly what it is.
Well, Dermot, thank you so much for having us here today. With the Oysterman, I'm Donna Rodriguez for PCN Local Eats.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the lifestyle stories from your community. You can rewatch any episode at PACTV's Prime channel found at our website or catch us on YouTube.
Be sure to like PCN and PCN Life on Facebook and Twitter and on Instagram. See you in 2 weeks for a new PCN Life. Have a great week.